It's 12 Smooth Stones, a new book by Chuck Meyer, who's been on our program before, but this time with a unique angle in his writing because he addresses this book to his daughter, who is also with us today. Stay with us on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Richard Thompson with Austin Metropolitan Ministries, welcoming you to this edition of the show. Today we're especially pleased to have Chuck Meyer back with us, who has been with us before to talk about other books that he's written, such as Surviving Death and some of his detective stories, and yet today he's coming to us with a new book called 12 Smooth Stones, to which he addresses his daughter, who is also with us, Michael Meyer. We welcome you, Michael, and Chuck.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us here.
And you know there's the old protocol that ladies first. So since this was addressed to you, Michael, first of all, congratulations on inspiring your dad to do it.
Thank you.
And it says here on the cover, 12 Smooth Stones, a father writes to his daughters about money, sex, spirituality, and other things that really matter. And I'd like to have you say how you feel about his doing this.
Well, I'm really flattered that he would consider writing a book about me. I mean, I don't think many fathers actually write books about their daughters.
You know of no other father that's done that, I bet.
Well, I think you're right.
Yeah. And Chuck, what inspired you to do it, besides the fact she's a great person?
Well, a great kid, great person. The book really grew out of real life for us. And when Michael hit adolescence, 12, 13-ish, we'd have issues come up, many of which are addressed, as you know, in the book. Mm-hmm. And we'd have some interaction about them at various decibel levels for both of us, usually me louder than her. I think that's accurate. Mm. And then I'd go back, I'm a writer, I'd go back and write about it, and because it would start me thinking about the issue at a deeper level than the argument that we had had about it. And I'd really work through thinking about this and kind of thinking about all sides of it, and then it would be a letter to her saying, okay, this is what I think about this, and and I've really given this a little more thought now that I've calmed down, and I'd put it on her box. She has a box in my office that we leave notes for each other on, and she'd pick it up on her way through and go read it, and I'd listen for, giggles or groans or silence in the other room, and
or rage,
perhaps. How can you think this? That actually didn't occur, and then she'd come back and we'd talk about it.
Okay, well, let's talk about some of these issues. I mean, I think the one of the first things that I was interested in was how you deal with the matter of doing it, which has to do with sexuality. Mm-hmm. You have to do with money. You have to do with, what's the deal? What is the deal? What is that?
What's the deal?
That's the name of the title of the chapter.
Oh, this was about, as I recall, asking permission to do something, and we wanted a lot more data than her mom and I wanted a lot more data than she wanted to give. And,
oh, really?
And then we talked about sort of the fairness of that, and how was life fair and life is not fair. And
yeah, and I remember reading some other parts here about like privacy, and I mean, you said in your introduction, you tell your folks some of what's going on in your life and what you're thinking. Mm-hmm. You might tell your friends maybe more. Or,
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you find that your dad writing you these letters helped you communicate in a way that you might not have otherwise?
Well, yeah, it gave me a chance to really understand where he was coming from, because then it wasn't just simply him telling me to do something, like if I couldn't go out or if they were mad at me for not telling them everything that I was going to do, but I understood why he was doing it, an issue of my safety, and I just sort of understood more where he was coming from, instead of just it kind of being kind of out there where where he was coming from.
I see.
I guess.
You know, in some of the counseling that I've done within the church, I've I've had people talk about difficulties in communication or feelings that were just kind of not getting resolved, and I suggested that they write each other letters.
Sure.
And they wouldn't have to put it in the post office. As in your case, you put it in a box, and tell the person by writing how you feel, and that somehow objectifies it. It somehow
Really?
gets it
Very
in a
good.
different
Right.
way of communicating than if you're just trying to do it without putting it in writing.
Yeah, and it's less confrontive. It's less confrontational. I can say some fairly radical things in the book to her, I think,
Yeah.
but in a way that's written down. It's not like eyeball to eyeball, okay, kid. And she doesn't have to feel defensive about it. She doesn't have to defend anything. She can read it and agree or disagree, or we can come in and chat about it, which is one of the things I like best.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about some of those radical things, Michael. I mean, for instance, booze. There was this chapter on drinking. And, you know, I was reading along here, and it says, teach your child to drink, sort of thing. Is that what actually happened?
Well, we had beer around the house, and as however young you were, anytime you wanted a sip of something, you got it.
Yeah. It was never, you can't drink.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And
Well, in fact, the expectation is that she will drink, and she
Yeah.
should drink.
But do it safely and be responsible about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by doing it at home,
I learned to control myself and kind of learn what's okay and what's not.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, now, in Europe, you know, you hear about the Italians and the French and others that,
Old enough to reach the counter.
well,
Tall enough. You're tall enough to reach the counter.
That's true.
tall enough to reach the counter. Okay, I got you. And
The Germans.
The Germans. I
I mean,
mean,
you-
they
you
have
can-
wine at home with their kids.
Well, not only that, but you can drink at 16. But
Yeah.
you can't drive till you're 18.
Probably safer.
It's a little safer.
But I mean,
the other thing we suggest in the book is that what's education for? Probably ought to be teaching drinking in high school. I mean, otherwise, what are your options? How do you learn to drink? And generally, people are going to drink in this culture.
what about other of your friends? Do the same kind of thing happen in their family, that there was this sort of intentional way of letting them know what it means to drink and how to do it and so on?
In some households, I think. Some of the parents I know just would never accept that their child would ever drink or try anything or do anything. They just think they're not going to. But in some of my friends' houses, the parents are kind of like, you know, we know you're going to drink. Just do it carefully. Be responsible. Don't hurt anybody. Don't hurt yourself.
And the parachute's always there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, now there is a chapter, parachute. Is that, you know, if you get fired from a job, that you can then get another job? Like,
No.
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 No, it's if I'm somewhere and I get into a situation that I can't get out of and I need help, that I can call him and he will come help me.
No
Really?
questions
No
asked.
questions asked until later, probably.
has that happened? Have you called him?
I
I
don't
think you've had
I don't-
just car trouble.
Just car
Yeah,
trouble.
but no social events.
No.
No.
Okay.
No problem.
No.
But now you told me before the show that you're going away to college next year.
Yes. Yes.
McAllister College
In St. Paul, Minnesota.
in St. Paul, Minnesota. Are you going to call your father and say, come get me?
I probably could if I had to. If I needed to, I
You're
probably
exactly
could.
right. I'd be on the next plane.
Hopefully, I won't have to.
Yeah, but also it's nice to be able to pick up the phone and know that he's there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk to you about religion. There's one here called, there are a couple of chapters that deal specifically with religion. One is called Fundamentalists. And before the show, you were also saying to me that you thought this was one of the more helpful kinds of communication you got from your dad. How was that helpful?
Well, when I went on a church ski trip, and this is what the chapter's about.
Yeah.
And while there, some of the people who were like leading us were telling us that it's not okay to like read horoscopes or do tarot cards, and that, like the devil's, you're going to go to hell and stuff. And that just scared me. You know, I was, I think, 12 or something. And that frightened me. And I came home and I was upset because, you know, I have friends and I read the horoscope and stuff. But the chapter sort of taught me to be tolerant of other people. And, you know, everyone's going to have different beliefs, obviously. And you kind of need to just kind of deal with that and know that people aren't going to think what you think, but you shouldn't, like, persecute people because of that.
Just because they're different.
Yeah.
Yeah. You say something in there about the tolerance thing, as far as some people just wanting to feel like everybody else has to fit into their belief system.
Well, and also, again, kind of expanding on that, there are religious fundamentalists, there are political fundamentalists, there are social fundamentalists. There are people who are so rigid about what it is that they believe that they're just incredibly intolerant of anyone else. So the message here is really to be tolerant of that, and also to beware of people who are so judgmental. I mean, one of the things we talk about a lot of the time is what's the function of behavior, rather than judging it good or bad. What does this function mean?
Now, in this case, he said, what does it mean? I mean, this kind of behavior. It was.
Well, you got to ask, why would somebody do that?
Why would somebody do that?
Why would somebody do that? I mean,
just be so
insecure.
On saying you have to do it my way.
Insecure.
Yeah,
insecure.
The thing we
So they
talked
have to
about
know
was
they're
it was so
right.
insecure that you had to be, so tightly bound and so tightly rigid. You must be really insecure about what it is that you believe.
Yeah.
If you can't see outside that.
Yeah.
I think.
So your dad was saying it's okay. Hindus are okay, Buddhists are okay. All these other world religions, that you don't have to say that they're not going to be saved. I mean, he said that in this book, didn't he? And he said that to you in person, which is that what you understand tolerance to be?
Yeah.
Is that you're not presuming somebody's going to go to hell if they don't do it
If they're a
a certain
Buddhist.
way?
They're Buddhist, yeah, exactly.
Many paths, same mountain.
Well, now that sounds like Mahatma Gandhi or something, Chuck.
I think it's true.
Okay, well, that's good. I think that clarifies what is a broader term of fundamentalist in this particular. Sometimes it's usually defined. We've got just a minute left before we take a break, but I'd like to say that one of the things that I think this book may be directed toward is more than just teenagers.
Absolutely.
At least the parents, huh?
Yes. Well, I wrote it, and Michael actually has read everything in there and did the introduction to the book. We'd like to see it as a beginning of dialogue. Talk about faith dialogue. This is a dialogue between parents and kids, and kids can read it as well as parents, and it can be sort of the jumping off point for some really good discussions. We hope.
I think that it could be good for youth groups. It could be good for preachers. I mean, in terms of knowing how to communicate with young people out there in the congregation. Well, we're going to take our collective breath here and invite you folks to just stay with us. We'll be back in just a minute after some information about Austin Metropolitan Ministries. Welcome back to Austin Faith Dialogue, where today we're having just a great conversation with Chuck and Michael Meyer. Chuck having written this book to his daughter, Michael, and we're highlighting this as it's now available around the bookstores in town. And would like to come back to just a couple of these chapters that we didn't talk about in the first half. I'd like to just ask, number one, success. There was a catchphrase here that your dad used about success is showing up. I mean, what's your understanding of that?
Well, I understand that the one way to become successful is you have to try things, and you have to be willing to go out there and try to do new things and meet new people and stuff. And if you're there, you're at least making an attempt. And you can't, you may fail, but if you're there, at least you've tried.
Now, has that been helpful to you? I mean, you think about that every once in a while when you're...
Yeah. Every once in a while. Like when I go try out for volleyball teams that I'm scared of making, that's not a good comparison, but it's if I'm there, I'm trying, and then hopefully maybe sometime I'll make the team, and then I can become better and move on. But if I don't go, then I'll never get any better.
Then there's
nothing
no
will
chance.
ever happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is that what pretty well describe what you had in mind?
I think it was Woody Allen said 90% of life is showing up. And Michael does that real well. I mean, she's out there and tries new things, sometimes against difficult odds, and does it. She shows up. And that's 90% of it is being there, because the people that didn't bother to show don't even get a shot at it.
Did you ever hear about the little boy that slept on the floor because he didn't want to fall out of bed? I mean, fear of failure and, that sort of thing. And I think the other thing is that you're active in school. I mean, I hate to ask your dad to brag about you. Tell us what you do in school.
Well, I play volleyball. I'm the co-editor of our newspaper and co-editor of our literary magazine.
And this is where?
This is at McCallum High School.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot besides just homework.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fair to say.
And you go to her events? And
Oh, you bet. Oh,
I remember asking you on one of the former shows about how you had time to write all these crazy books that you write, besides being the vice president of operations at St. David's Hospital.
Right.
And you said you took your word processor to the volleyball game.
That's right.
And while she's out there, or
No,
at
not
least
while she's out there. Between games.
Between games.
While she's out there, I'm glued on the court.
Yeah. He always finds a library and works.
That's right. Or find the library, or that's what I did last weekend.
I know.
Well, I also, in thinking about what you've said in terms of the fairness issue, this is why the injustice in the world. I mean, that sounds pretty theological discussions with your dad about why do good things happen to bad people, or bad things happen to good people. And as I recall, you said it was about 50-50.
No, I said that we get a lot of undeserved suffering, and we get a lot of undeserved joy. And that those two really do, I think, balance each other in the long run. But you hear people complaining a lot about, well, it's said in the book, and I've told Michael a million times, he used to work at a penitentiary, and people would complain about, I didn't get what I deserved. And I would say, yep, and it's a really good thing. I mean, imagine a world where you got what you deserved.
Yeah.
Good heavens. So it's good that we don't get what we deserve. We get a lot of undeserved everything, a lot of undeserved love. Yeah,
right. Well, I have to say that one of the things that I was really impressed by is the story of how Chuck became your dad. I mean, he's not your natural father. No. And
that's what you mean by natural.
Natural.
Well, he's your unnatural,
your unnatural father.
He's pretty unnatural.
The social workers will be at the door next week.
A little late for that.
Oh, yeah, really.
But how old were you when he adopted you?
About 6.
That's right.
6. First time I met him.
That's right.
Yeah. And the thing that gets me in this book is that your bonding to each other is no different than it would have been if he had been your.
She is my daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great.
Little girl.
And is there something about the fact that you chose each other in a sense? I mean, when you married her mother,
that's true. It's interesting.
You were game to take her on. You were stuck with her.
Right.
And you were glad for that.
Part of the package.
Yeah.
Part of the deal.
And tell us about your mom. Is she's been married to your dad since you were 6 years old. That's
10 years.
10 years.
Coming up on 11 years.
That's right.
And how does she feel about this book? I mean, have you had discussions with her about it?
Not really.
I don't think we've talked about the book in particular. She reads everything,
Yeah.
of course, that I write and that Michael
She
writes,
comments.
and comments on it as well.
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, we got to give her credit for the editing.
Yes, that's
she
true.
really is an incredibly good editor. She say you need to say this, or you need to balance that, or this word doesn't make sense, and she is a dynamite, brutal editor.
Oh, really? But she's kind in her brutality.
Yeah, she's the queen of the sticky notes. She sits in there with a red pen and her yellow sticky notes and writes stuff like, "This doesn't make a bit of sense. Love, Debbie." Puts it on there.
Yeah. Which reminds me of Charlie Shedd writing a book called Letters to Karen, and his making comments like in relationship to his wife that he would come in and talk about Karen's mother, and they would have these, these differences, and she'd leave a note saying, "Dear Charlie, I hate you. Love," whatever her name was.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right.
And so the extent to which the issues that your dad's talking about here are just not between the two of you, but I mean the three of you.
Yeah. And also the cats.
The cats.
Yeah, the cats. The cats are all. Every time we have a conversation, the cats wander in and sit on one of our laps or participate in the conversation, and
They're really helpful.
That you like your pets. I mean, you've bonded to your cats.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How can you not? They're dogs, really.
And what did you have to take on the cats when you married?
Oh yeah, that was
Michael's-
the part of the package that I've never gotten used to and never will get used to.
Okay.
But Debbie's kind of the constant that's there with both of us,
I see.
and has been through some difficult times for her, as you know.
I'd like to talk to you about the F word.
Would that be like faith? As
The
in
faith. I mean, we're talking between in this chapter and in the one on doing it.
Is this where they put on the screen, "This program contains material"?
Yeah, that's right. We're going to have to give
I'll have to leave.
viewer a warning here. But the thing that interested me of what your dad said about what is pornographic, and that some of the usual understandings of that. I think your dad's a little different in that regard. I mean, compare him with other folks that you know in your age group and their parents and so on. Do you think he's different in the way he comes at the matters of advising you about, sexual issues and that sort of thing?
I think he's real open about it. And we can discuss things. He's not trying to hide anything from me. He's like, this is what it is. And I don't know if many other of my friends can talk to their parents about stuff like that without feeling embarrassed or having parents like chastise them. I don't know.
The issue with pornography, I think I mentioned there, is it's a power issue. It's not about naked people, and it's not even about sex. It's about power, and we got into that one about a CD that she brought up.
Yeah. What was the CD?
Adam Sandler, What the Hell Happened to Me? I did it.
Yeah.
But one of the entire CD is just rifled with the F word, and I was afraid that he was going to hate it when I let him listen to it.
We were riding in the car, and you popped it in the CD. You said, "You're probably going to hate this, but it's really funny." So she popped it in and cracked me. I about drove
really
off the road
funny.
laughing at a couple of them, and then hit one that really hit me the wrong way, and that's when we got into.
Oh yeah.
I think this is pornographic. And
What
it's
was the one that
pornographic.
hit you the wrong way?
It was one about a sexual encounter with a woman, where he tricked her into having sex with him, and just totally used her as an object. And this is not good stuff. It's not funny. This is not funny. This is pornographic. This is not good stuff. And so we sort of launched into that. And the rest of it, it's too bad, because the rest of the CD I think is hilarious.
Yeah. Did you agree with him about his analysis of it?
I actually don't remember which one you're talking about.
Remember the one where he has an encounter and he's recording the encounter with her, and what are these sounds, and and here, let me you make some of these noises, and let me do things to you to make these noises.
So it was actually people having sex.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
can you tell the difference between that?
Between
and
that
exercising?
and people in exercise,
Yeah.
that was it.
And that was, you were saying that invades the intimacy
Right.
of
Right.
the relationship.
And then he had a sexual encounter with somebody that he was recording, and
I
she didn't know it was being recorded, and on and on. It was like, this is really a power deal here, and unfair.
Well, I want you to know, I think, Michael, that you're getting a good start in, the whole issue of ethics, and your dad's a pretty swift guy as far as not only understanding that stuff, but articulating it. And so I think you're kind of lucky to have had him around.
Flip side of that's also true. I mean, the comment, there's a blurb on the back from Ann Richards. The one they did not put on there was that she wrote an addendum to that.
Yeah.
You know how she always turns things around.
Yeah.
She said, in addition to that, she said, it's always been my opinion that parents and children raise each other. She said, I think Michael Meyer's done a really good job with her dad.
Oh, really? They didn't put that on here?
Did not put that on there. That was part of the
All she says is that Chuck Meyer's love and respect for his daughter resonates on every page. He says what many parents want to say to their children. This book will help them do it. And they left off that other?
Uh-huh. And that's what's really true. I mean, we were talking about this last night. Truth is, all three of us are real lucky to have each other.
Yeah. When you go off to college, I mean, are you looking forward to it?
I am. I'm ready to go to college.
Big time.
Big time. I'm real
Why?
ready.
Why are you so eager?
Oh, I'm real tired with. I mean, I love my parents. I'm gonna miss them, but I'm tired of being in high school, and I've been in college since December, and it's just kind of like.
You've been accepted.
I was accepted.
I see.
I
Okay.
did early. I played early, and so now I just kind of waiting.
Senioritis?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Big time senioritis.
Big time.
Oh yes.
Okay. Well, but I mean, you have raised her for the purpose of doing this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Parenting is a series of letting go.
Yeah. But then the question is, empty nest.
Mm-hmm.
Are you prepared to cope with that loss?
We talk about it. Yeah, the three of us talk about it and have shed a few tears about it, and we're going to miss each other, and it's time to do this. It's sure, yeah, we'll miss each other, and we will go on with our lives.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Well, I once heard it said, if you love your children, you'll give them roots and wings.
Nice.
And I think, obviously, your folks have given you both of those.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I want to thank you, Michael, for being the subject of this book, 12 Smooth Stones, and Chuck for writing it, and for your both being with us today on Austin Faith Dialogue.
Thank you for having us.
And we are glad you folks joined us. Be with us again next week. I'm Richard Thompson on behalf of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, wishing you peace.